One of them wanted to be the security guy. He claimed he was a security guy.
Well, that was a very quick fade, Mr. Bryan. Welcome to a legislative version of Security Guy Ready with Chuck, Assembly Bill Harold,
and Paul. Very hot, Bristow.
Freaking unbelievably hot, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I've had enough.
Our cameras melting,
England.
microphones.
Yeah.
Do you like our new sign? Our new Security Guy Radio sign?
Yes. Well done. Yeah.
Now, this way I can turn around and say, follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. When I hurt my neck when I do that, I can't actually turn around and
What's
see
the
it.
G plus?
Google Plus.
Oh, there you go.
Now, don't make fun of Google Plus because I found a little secret. I put your show, Kelley, our guest I'll introduce in a second. I put your show on Google Plus, and I typed your name today in Google. Guess what? Top of the page with that posting for the show.
Fantastic.
It's a Google
yeah.
product, so
Yeah.
Google wants to put you on top. See?
Yeah.
Google are our friends.
Yeah.
We like Google.
That's good.
Oh.
All right.
Yeah.
Facebook, we like you too, but we like
That's
both.
nice.
Oh, well, I have some very exciting news for you. Our demographics are in.
Oh, well, let's
The
see
new
'em.
ratings.
Let's hear 'em.
The new ratings.
Is this hot off the press?
I just got this along with my bill. Here's the bill for you.
Oh,
by the
right.
way.
Thank you very much.
Got to pay that. They always give you the bill and the ratings. Isn't that funny? All right. So here we go. It's, as you can see from this chart, a nice steady climb upward, right? Total listenership per week,
That's more than steady.
6,741 listeners.
Nice.
We had 50 the first show
Yeah.
in January.
Yeah. That's good.
Mr.
Yes.
Bryan, that's excellent, isn't it?
Yes.
Very good.
Well done.
Hello?
Yes?
I was busy with sound effects.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, it's good.
So keep listening, everybody.
No,
And
that's
follow
awesome.
us on
And
YouTube,
it keeps on
Facebook, Twitter,
going up,
LinkedIn.
look.
It keeps going up. It's a nice, steady. I think our first show was my dog, my gardener, and our next door neighbor. Like 50
Some guy
people
looking
the
for a
first show.
job.
Some
Yeah.
guy looking for. That's right.
Oh,
some guy called
that's
in-
right. Yeah.
Guy called looking for a job.
That was
funny.
entertaining, actually.
was
We should
very-
dig that one out.
One of my guards called up, and he thought he was calling me on my cell phone or something, and just started having a conversation about work the next day. So we're on the air, dude. It's kind of fun.
Actually, it's more than a steady climb. That's a good climb.
Yeah, it's very good. So
That's awesome.
I'm going as is. You going as is?
No.
Going as is
Can't
in a couple
afford it.
weeks, and I'm going to take a portable recording device, and we're going around doing interviews at the show,
Right.
and bring these demographics and sell some commercials. Got to start making some money, right?
Great Britain, 3%.
3% of the Great Britain. Look at that.
No, I wonder if that includes Scotland. Who's
Not anymore.
Hopefully leaving
No,
Great Britain soon.
And Australia. Remember when I had my brown lawn? They started tweeting stuff in Australia. Got a 1% listenership in Australia. 1% in Brazil. They love us in Brazil. And the other bothers me because those are the
others.
the other countries. Quite a few Middle Eastern countries actually listening to us.
That's interesting.
I'm not sure if that's good or bad. Kind of a little bit of a threat, which is a coincidence. We should talk about potential threats because we just so happen to have a guest today. Isn't it funny how we always happen to have
Yes.
something we're talking about? We have a person in the studio for that. And today we have Ms. Kelley Cahill, the founder of iCheckmates.com, which is a very unique background service. And Kelley's going to talk to us today about, I guess the best word to describe it would be sociopaths on the internet, cyber stalking, cyber dating, things like that. And Kelley has a
You mean there's bad people on the internet?
Apparently so.
Shocking.
Is that right?
Apparently
I
so.
thought everybody was good on
It
that.
is a shocker.
Welcome to the show, Kelley.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you for
coming on.
having me. I appreciate it.
Now, everybody's going to ask, the first question is going to be, how did you get into this? Because most people, investigative-wise or background-wise, started a long time ago and did it, but you're fairly new to the
Yes.
profession.
Yeah.
How did it come about?
And well, it started about 8 years ago, and it started out of my personal experience of after I started dating someone that I met on Match, which was shortly after, about a year or so after my divorce, and everybody I knew was on Match. And they said, "Oh, you should try it." So I thought, what the heck, I'll give it a try, not knowing much about really anything or the computer. And quite quickly, I met a guy that seemed great. Kind of just seemed like he fit everything that I needed. We quickly started dating, and within a short period of time, a decision was made about, I was going to buy a house again, and he wanted some help with me, helping his career was in real estate. Long story, I ended up, buying a home that we were going to do as a fix and flip. And it was like, hey, if things work out with us, that'll be great. We can move forward. But if not, we could do like a business partnership. I could do a lot of the fixing up for my share because I, can't put any money in because of my divorce from a few years ago, big story. And so I proceeded to, buy a house, and I proceeded to kind of help him in his career and his image. I, bought him a car, nice car. I introduced him to a lot of very wealthy people, kind of helped change his image. And thinking all along, we were probably going to get married. It was really going in that
You were
direction.
dating. It was regular dating.
We were
relationship.
dating,
Yeah.
and it was serious. And
Let me interrupt real quick. How long after Match.com did you guys actually meet?
it was probably a couple months.
Okay.
He had contacted me, and then I guess I didn't respond. About a month later, he sent me a message back, kind of like, hey, and I'll give it another try. And I said, oh, okay. Whatever.
And you assume Match.com did background checks or something.
Yes, and yeah, my naivete at the time, which a lot of people still believe, is that if you pay any dating site, that they at least do the minimal background check, which is at least to make sure they're not like a criminal con or they're not at least married. And, that's what I thought, which I thought would be a lot safer than, some of the others like Plenty of Fish or, whatever. So I felt at least safe in that regard, and never had any reason to think that anybody would be deceitful. I mean, I just, pretty much don't think that way, which is most people. They think what you see is what you're going to get. So into almost a year into us dating and him wanting to propose and already looking at rings, I still had not met his 4 children. And at that point, I said, I understand in the beginning you didn't want me to meet, and then maybe they're still upset about the divorce, but maybe it's time, and how can we get married if I don't know your kids? And it became this big struggle. And
So he represented that he was divorced.
Yeah, had been divorced for over 2 years.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
And was there anything else that sort of made you feel uneasy at all?
Nothing.
At
And
all?
that
All looked
no,
normal.
nothing at all. And my dad was PI. And my dad was a cop. My stepfather was head of security for the United States, head of the Strategic Air Command. So I grew up around suspicion and everybody be leery of, So, but I didn't ever, nothing. I mean, he played it very well. So I said, I think we need a break. And at that time, a lot of unfortunate things happened personally. So I was kind of tired and done. And I just thought, I think I need to break it off for a while, just, be by myself. And he had always wanted me to put him on the title of the house. And I promised I would, but I never did. And just something said, just don't do it. But my word is my word. So I went to, I got the money that would have been for his share of the home at the time. It was still in the middle of a remodel. And about 3 days before I was supposed to give it to him, I got a letter in the mail from his oldest son, who had found my credit card statement in his father's gym bag and knew that, according to him, that his dad was up to his old tricks, and basically let me know that his dad was married, never separated, never divorced, that he was a con man. Not only was he seeing me this entire year, but he was still seeing his mother, as well as several other women on several other dating sites, including Adult Friender.
So you guys didn't live
sites.
together, but he spent a lot
No,
of time
we
with you.
did live together.
Oh,
interesting.
how did he pull that one off?
Yeah, exactly. He traveled a lot for business. And at the time I had met him, he was living with a friend of his. And I find out later that his wife had caught him once again. Now mind you, at this time, this was in 2006, when I spoke with her and met her. It had been 11 or 12 years that she had off and on had caught him doing things with other women. So she had known, I guess, but always for whatever, he sucked her back in. Well, this time he was out, she had found his profile on Match again and said basically, look, and he had moved the family to Orange County from Colorado. And she said, look, I want to go back, but until you can prove to me that you are going to be, a good Christian, which he claimed, can get us back home and, that you're changing, you need to just stay at Bob's.
So he had the family in Colorado and commuted when he was living with you?
No, he had moved them here.
He had moved them, okay.
Yeah, they had moved here, but she wanted to go back.
Oh, I see. Okay,
so
all right.
during this time, he was, but he did travel a lot and has always traveled for business throughout the country and actually throughout the world, worldwide. And
so that part was legit.
That was
Traveling.
legit, but that's how he was also using those certain days that he was supposed to travel. But he would lie to me and say, oh, my trip's from really, he would say it was from Tuesday to Friday when it was really Wednesday to Thursday.
Right.
Those other days he would spend with her. He
Now,
also,
was this residence a long way away from yours, or was it in the same town? Or
it was probably not even 30 minutes away. It was
Oh,
still in
okay.
Orange County.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he had also stated that he, like 3 or 4 nights a week, he was going up to coach his sons, 4 boys, and they were all in sports, but coach his sons' baseball games, dress in the, the jersey. I mean, would go through the whole 9 yards. When I found out later, he maybe once, twice, he even was at the baseball field that they were playing, according to his wife, they were having family dinners.
I can't even find my way to the studio once a week, let alone back and forth between
right
residents.
now.
That's a lot of work.
And the text messages, I mean, and it's unbelievable because, I've since found out we believe there's hundreds of women worldwide, but just in Orange County, I know there's a minimum of 10 that I know personally that found me a few years after that. He had, for whatever reason, let a lot of people know that he dated me, but he also did a lot to try to disparage me and make me look like I was the bad guy. And most of these women believed it until they found out the truth, and they all reached out to me.
In the interest of disclosure, and I did research on this, if you Google your name, you'll find negative stories too.
Mm-hmm.
You'll find stories that say, "Oh no, Kelley's crazy," and that doesn't make any sense. And I don't know who's writing them, by the way. It's not this person you're talking about.
I can tell you. Who's
well,
writing.
but you know what I'm
I
saying?
know.
It's not by name. It's not this person. It's all these other people doing comments on blogs and things like that. So
But
there's
I
quite
do
a-
know who those are because we do have good intel and good technical people.
Well, it's just interesting how there's.
Yes. Well, and this is what happens. I mean, and this is part of why, getting into, and I'll get to that later, but what we're going to discuss about the legislation, about how to protect people from the cybercrime, cyber harassment, revenge porn, all these things that people are doing. But yeah, there's a lot of negative that he put out and started several blogs about me. But what we found is that he pretended to be me, disparaging someone, then pretended to be other people, calling me out, saying, "Oh, that person that said that, this is who it is. It's Kelley Cahill. Oh, well, you should know all this about Kelley Cahill." Well, everything in there is an absolute lie and can be proven, which it has been. Believe me, I've done many shows and talk shows and been to many attorneys.
So
And
this all happened post breakup, so to speak. You kind of got angry that you discovered him. Is that kind of the response?
yeah. I started discovering more in 2000. Well, I discovered what happened, and, that's when I kind of lost everything, as a result, where, people, they do read my story that I say I lost 1.5 million. It wasn't all in cash. People, that's the misconception. What I lost was because of, I thought he and I were, getting into this home, and we did live together. Subsequently, I did buy him a car that, was on my credit, but he was making the payments for. Well, when I wanted, my car back and all these financial things, he, canceled the insurance and crashed the car. I had found out later, after doing forensic accounting, that he had been taking out $200 to $400 a day, if not every other day, out of the ATM, had added himself to my charge cards because, again, as we lived together, I'm thinking I'm going to marry this guy. I don't have secrets. I mean, he knew every password, passcode, had all access to everything. Plus, he did my real estate transactions, and he knew my Social Security, mother's maiden name, all those things. So he had added himself to my credit cards and charged them all over the limit.
Was he using his real name during this?
Yeah,
Or,
yeah.
Or several different...
It's hiding in plain sight, I guess.
He uses, and that's the thing, is he still, to this day, is still doing this. He uses his real name, his real pictures. He lies about his age, lies about pretty much everything else is a lie.
But is that against the law? Technically not, I suppose.
Well,
if it's theft by fraud, that's a different story.
Yes, theft by false pretense.
But who's going to prosecute that? I mean, not many people, unfortunately.
Not yet, and that's what we're trying to get, because well, had I known, again, and this is why I started my company, iCheckmates, is I was left out to dry when this happened. I had no help, even going to the police station. I mean, I had a 1-inch thick stack of evidence, emails from other women that had contacted me, and that's really what got me started into doing something. I was never going to do anything.
So your iCheckmates sprang out of this experience.
It came out of this horrible experience, and it really wasn't until after the third victim contacted me and let me know what he did to them. And now, he did not do the extent of conning to other women that he did me. Every single one was different, but he got something out of every single one.
Assuming he's never been prosecuted, correct?
No. And this is what's frustrating.
Some people like this make a living, I suppose.
Yeah.
Well, and
It's
and a sociopath, that's what they do, and they live the con, and and their main focus with a sociopath, it's about power, it's about money, and it's about sex. It isn't always about sex. Sex is generally always there, but it is something that is underlying, and sometimes maybe that's all they'll get. But most of the time, they're leveraging that connection to get to the next level, which, ironically, with every single woman, you could see the step to where he is today.
Now, I hate to stop any conversation when we're speaking about sex.
Yes.
However,
Definitely.
You'll have to take a break. Back in a minute on Security Guy Radio. That's securityguyradio.com. Welcome back to Security Guy Radio. That's securityguyradio.com. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Google+. Google+. Where my demographic sheet go? Where did it go? Well, here it is right here. This just in. Again, Security Guy Radio, 6,741 listeners every Monday night.
It's good.
Unbelievable. Keep them coming. Now, if somebody would just pay us.
Yeah,
Wouldn't it be nice if we could
smash the
actually
money
get
out of
paid
it.
some money to do this instead of us paying the radio station every week? It would be great.
Let's open this check. Oh,
Well, we stopped off with the sociopath and sex, which was a very poor segue, but we can go back to that. Only half kidding, because are these guys studs? Is that part of their profile, that they excite women sexually? I mean, they're exciting people because they're adventuresome and they do all
or
kinds
is
of
it because
things.
it gives off that dangerous?
No.
Which one is it? I
No,
wonder?
and I got to tell you, and it's so funny because he was opposite of my ex-husband, first of all. And I thought maybe that's what I
Look-wise or what?
need. Look-wise, kind of everything. My ex-husband, kind of think of like G.I. Joe.
Okay.
Very handsome. It's like Barbie, not Ken, Barbie and G.I. Joe. Tattoos, 6'4", goatee, ex-recon, special forces. What would look like the typical bad boy. This guy, and this is what catches, I think, most women is, and this is one thing I try to let a lot of women or men know for online dating and their posts, is these guys know who to target, and they know what to look for. And especially when it's a woman recently divorced, recently separated, and especially a woman that looks like they've been married for quite some time, most of these guys know they're really not internet savvy. They know they really don't know this whole online world because they really haven't been in it. And because these women, like myself, you put everything out there thinking, I'm going to meet the man of my dreams, so I want to let him know everything down to my favorite color and my favorite dog and my favorite
Now, let's
song.
distinguish that, and I'm interested in this, from you and I meet at a bar and we're going to go out on a date. There's no cyber stuff involved. We're not going to start sharing that kind of information like that. What is the compulsion to do it online? There is some kind of compulsion there, I think.
There is, and I think it's because we've been sold in the media this fantasy that, now it used to be 1 in 5, 1 in 4 people now are meeting via the internet, which has taken over the old traditional way.
Do you think people feel more privacy in the internet? Because if I'm sitting across from you speaking to you, I'm vulnerable this way.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm behind a computer, I can just say what I want to do, and you're not looking at me. It's like anonymity.
Well, the
is
problem
that-
is once you put it down on.
Yeah, there is
then
that
it's gone, isn't it?
anonymity there.
Yeah.
And if you are these, scammer, sociopath cons, they know what to say to respond to the vulnerable woman. And you can tell the one that's vulnerable or the guy that's recently divorced or sadly the widowed men, and especially if they put their financials out there, which sadly there's Millionaire Match, which people think.
That's a bad idea.
Well,
It just seems like a bad.
Well, people think, again, they're verified. And I make this point. I said, the one thing they do verify is how much money they make.
Wait,
But that doesn't mean that.
Who do you think? You're saying that the people that propose to be millionaires turn out not to be sometimes.
Well, no, on Millionaire Matt, it can. You can, if you are going to be posted as a millionaire, you have to send them your bank statements and your tax returns.
Oh, interesting.
And they verify it. And if they do verify you make over $1 million, you get like a nice little mark, like a little star, saying this person is worth X million dollars.
And these knuckleheads can't spend $1,000 on a background check with iCheckmates.com, let's say, and find out if the people they're dating, because the site doesn't do
Well,
it.
Well, this is the misconception that people think that if you pay or go on these sites that there is going to be some type of verification. Well, there isn't. And so I tell these women, I said, they're like, yeah, well, they verify on Millionaire Match. I said, the only thing they verify is they have money. I said, how many cons and how many serial criminals are rich? Just because you have money doesn't mean you're not a bad guy.
Now, is there any female millionaires on there?
Yeah.
What's the number?
Yeah. I think it's just millionairematch.com. Oh, I mean, they have it now. I mean, they even have the ones sugar daddies. I mean, they even have Ashley Madison. And this is what frustrates me. But again, I was having this conversation. If somebody is married and they want to have an affair, whatever, more power to you, good for you. Go to a site like Ashley Madison, because Ashley Madison is a site that is known where married people go. They know they're all married, and they go because they specifically just want to have an affair.
There's honesty for you. Being honest about being dishonest.
But
Well,
this
it was
is
a good job. I've never
it,
heard of that. So.
No, but it's starting to be said about it. I mean,
But this is why they don't, is because the true con, they can't con.
Yeah.
They lose their game. They lose their
that
their
type
whole
of site, you
motive.
mean, right,
Well,
yeah.
and that's what people go, well, why don't they just go to Ashley Madison, where they, they're known to have affairs and they could just go ahead and have sex with whoever and be married and they don't care. It's because the con, and in my case, he has an agenda. They all have an agenda, and it's all about the con. It's about the scam. It's about what can get him the power, notoriety, money, fame, and again, sex, and whatever that is for them. You can't, pull a con on somebody that already knows your story. And so he's been able to make up this whole fake persona about his life and who he is. And with me, getting back to why I chose him, is he did everything that could just sweep a girl off her feet.
now,
I mean,
wouldn't
he didn't miss a beat.
no offense, but as a woman, why weren't you immediately suspicious about that? Because guys are always screwing something up.
Well, and again,
Too perfect.
It's too perfect.
it goes to, I was had been I'm in a year into divorce, but I was still pretty devastated. I mean, my husband cheated on me with a friend of mine, so it's not like I really wanted the divorce, but I probably wasn't emotionally really maybe ready. And I guess you could say maybe it was a rebound, but again, not really knowing the internet, not knowing whatever. And I just thought, hey, maybe this is how it's supposed to be. Maybe I'm supposed to pick a guy like this. And I wasn't really attracted to him in the way I was to my husband or other guys I dated. But I thought, this is maybe what I need.
He treated you better.
And he claimed to be this Christian. He was just so kind and just really was thoughtful. And
in retrospect, too nice? Did you guys ever fight about anything? Arguments?
I learned now, but not until around the 6 to 9 months, because that's how long a sociopath can kind of keep their game. This is why in most cases you hear that women or men, they either get married or engaged quite quickly. They get enveloped into a business deal quite quickly where there's contracts, they're on checking accounts. It's a way to kind of suck somebody in to where very quickly, because within about 6 to 9 months, that whole persona starts to shatter. Now, at that point, I was already into a house with him. And
now, did he put up his own money,
No.
by the way?
No.
He did not, okay.
No, it was
So
all
how
me.
did he talk you into that?
Well, I wanted to get another house after my divorce anyway, and I wanted to do a fix and flip. And he, being supposedly this big, successful real estate agent, which he was just got into real estate, he's like, oh, I can help you. And okay, great. Well, then as I'm finding a house, he's like, hey, which he did to his credit, he knew a lot about contracting. So a lot of the stuff that normally I would pay for, from electrical to building, I mean, it was a complete, almost, half tear down interior wise. He said he could do a lot of that. And that would be his kind of financial, or our equalizer, if you will.
I can see that. Right. All with the motivation probably to get his name on the title eventually.
Absolutely.
Putting in labor. Yeah.
But you
Yes.
actually initiated that first part of the conversation in regard to the house.
Well,
Or
yeah,
did
I
it
had-
Is that
come out
part of the
later?
manipulation that he lets you bring up the idea? I would think so. He's really smart.
Yeah, because I was at a place that I'd wanted to buy. I was renting just for a while, and I really wanted to buy it. And I had put that out there, but they just weren't ready to sell. And so as he knew that, he kept saying, well, how good's your credit? I said, well, my credit's really good, which is the one thing which is, out of everything I lost, that is probably the worst, because in the United States of America, without credit, you might as well I mean, actually, I can't even see.
You might as well do radio.
You might as well do radio. I can't even say you might as well be like a second-class citizen because they have more benefits than I do. But you get nothing. And so my credit was good. So it kind of started with that, and then it was like putting in that's what I do. I could do the paperwork. I could do this for you. I could really help out the deal. You wouldn't have to pay a So I'm like, okay, I didn't know anything. I mean, and this is where I know a lot of women and men, if you haven't been exposed to a sociopath and their tricks and their traits, and especially if you're a good, decent soul, you just cannot wrap your head around.
I find that
crazy.
They lack empathy. I think that's the number one.
Oh, well, they don't have
sympathy.
No
they can
conscience.
fake sympathy, but you can't really fake empathy.
No, and that's what people don't realize
There's a
is a sociopath physiologically does not have the ability to feel any emotion, including love.
Well, they can fake some though.
Well, no, but they can fake, but they don't. They physically, there's a piece of their brain that is missing. We've done studies on this. I've gone and studied with the Amen Clinic about this, and I've really delved myself into it for a lot of these questions and the why and how do they do this, and they don't. And that's why 82% of all inmates now in prison are sociopaths. And there's a reason, because it was 50% probably about 10 years ago. They say now the statistics are about 82, and there's a reason, because you cannot rehabilitate crazy. You can't rehabilitate somebody that has no moral compass, conscience, and again, there's no remorse. They don't feel guilt. People say all the time, like, how can he live with himself, or how can he look in the mirror, how can he sleep? I say, very well, because he thinks he didn't do anything. And if you read those negative comments about me on there, you'll see it always goes back to poor Miss Loser. What's his name? Talking about he's the victim, and they will always play the victim role. They don't ever hold anything responsible. Like it's not their fault; it's someone else's fault. And this is why I want to really try to educate the public and try to get some laws passed, is because the victims that I've been trying to help, as well as myself, have been re-victimized from our judicial system, as well as our police and law enforcement, and to the public. Because a lot of those comments you'll see, like, how could she be so stupid? How could she not know? Or how could she give her money? Or, oh, she was probably a gold digger, and, she probably ruined his life, and he was married. She probably knew he was married. All these comments. And they don't know the truth. And
love is blind, as they say.
Well, yeah.
Well, I
deaf,
think we
dumb,
all
and
get
blind.
sucked into a certain degree in our daily lives anyway.
Yeah. There's our music. Is that the music,
only
Brian?
One extra step.
I'm getting old. You have to turn up louder next time. Back in a minute on Security Guy Radio at securityguyradio.com. Good heavens, we're back. Back on securityguyradio.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and Google+. Look at how fast I did that. I get it right. Back with Miss Kelley Cahill of iCheckmates.com. So I'm kind of dense sometimes, a little dyslexic. So for a long time, when they started making Chick-fil-A's, and they put the first one in Hollywood, I said, Chick-fil-A. I don't know, stupid name is that? Chick-fil-A. Doesn't make any sense. I'm not kidding. For like 2 or 3 years, I didn't get it till somebody said, it's Chick-fil-A, you stupid Irish idiot. So when I saw iCheckmates, I kept going, iCheckmates? I don't. What does it have to do with chess? But you, meaning I, are checking somebody's mate. Mm-hmm. Background check.
Well, and also if you do play chess, do you play chess?
Yes.
I do, yeah.
Okay, so I play chess. So it's also, double entendre. But it's, basically
the game.
I've learned, well, it's not the game, but I've learned that in order to beat these guys at their game, you have to think 5 and 6 steps.
Just turn the microphone over. There you go. Yeah.
There we go. 5 and 6 steps ahead of them. To basically beat them, which is what I've spent the last 8 years doing, and just, just delving myself into, from any type of cybersecurity to learning about sociopaths, to learning about laws, to learning about ways to figure out how to beat them.
So you got done wrong, and your dad's got the background in the PI stuff, and you said, I got an epiphany one day, I'm going to go out and focus my business on these sort of people. Verification. So tell us about why your background company is a little different than most.
Well, what a lot of people think is they think it's a background check company, which, I mean, it's not in what people think, like, some of the background checks like Intellius or Spokio or Instant Checkmate. Those you can get and just pay $29 or $19 for and get a background check. What I decided to do is we know, statistically, I'll go, the 15% of the population are the unsavory type, which are, from anywhere from pedophiles, rapists, murderers, con artists, scammers, all that.
That used to tell us the police academy was 10%, so it's gone up. Yeah.
Well, it's gone. Well, and what's gone up is the sociopath, the rate, and they're about 7, at least 7, probably going up higher. So I thought, okay, let's say 15%.
So you're seeing that of the general criminal population, about half of them are at the sociopathic.
Oh, at least, yeah, absolutely. And so what I thought, I said, most people have tried to figure out ways to make those guys be honest. I know, they're never going to be. They're never going to be.
No.
So I thought, you know what, that's 15%. Even though it gets blown up to be bigger because that's what we talk about, that's what's focused on. So I started looking at, okay, well, there's still 85% decent human beings out there, which I do believe there's still more good than bad. And there are people that just want to go online and meet, hopefully the mate of their dreams, do business on LinkedIn, and not worry about someone's in a Ponzi scheme, because I've had those phone calls and emails
I've got
too.
them too. Yeah.
And that's increasing, by the way, because I use LinkedIn
Craigslist, to Facebook, which we know, which I've helped the FBI on a few cases with the sex trafficking, which is very rampant, which I don't know if you recently heard, across the country, 250 people were just arrested on Facebook.
One of our guests, Chief McDonald Long Beach, is big on that.
So it's everywhere. Yeah. And so what originally was going to be just for the online dating vertical now is really all areas. It's Craigslist. It's, even vetting teachers. I don't know who vets teachers anymore, but whoever they are, they should be fired.
Well, not to knock Craigslist. I like you guys, but there's no
there's
no at all.
No, and we have the Craigslist.
There's nothing.
Murders, because they're, these are the things, they do happen, and this is what happens when you have people that think something is safe and it isn't. So what our company is going to do, it's basically going after the decent people that have nothing to hide. And they're going to say, you know what, I'm going to take responsibility of not only my reputation and my background, because a lot of people are very leery about having their background checked, and if people do, it's kind of creepy. And the information, really, we don't know. It's a crapshoot because you get billions of records. We don't know the last time they were updated, and so we never really know too. So it's a false sense of security. So we're saying, take your responsibility, verify yourself. And our verification is a government database. It's not, you can't just any Joe Blow off the street can get it. It's what the NSA, FBI, Homeland Security, Secret Service use. Police, law enforcement get what I call the paper trail, that pretty much nobody but you, the person verifying yourself, could really get through that. But just in case, I wanted an extra measure, and I've added the biometrics of facial, voice, and in some cases fingerprint recognition. I've been studying biometrics, and I had this 3 years ago, this idea, and everybody thought I was crazy, and now we see biometrics. It is soon going to be replacing every PIN number, every bank, everything you have now from your Apple phones. Everything is biometrics verification. But this way, real time from either your cell phone that we already know is verified to you. We already know it's your address that's been verified, whether it's your computer, we know it's your IP address, and we know FaceTime, we pretty much know you're using it at that time. It's you. Again, pictures can't be, faked from 20 years ago. It is you right now. And with that is our patent that we're coming together. It's basically marrying the two technologies, or knowledge, if you will, together to verify an individual. And with that, you will get basically an encrypted seal of approval that will go with you when you go online, whether you go to Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Google+, wherever you go on the internet, so people can know that you are truly who you say you are.
So how do you sort of regulate, I guess, what they're putting on that site is the same as what you've found out about them?
Well,
how do you know that there's
if somebody's been verified, we already know. We have a list, a checklist, let's just say, of 30 things that we already know that we've gone through to verify an individual, and then we verified the biometrics. Okay. Their voice, their face, everything is them. So once you get through that, then it's okay, you are who you say you are, he is who he says he is. Then you will get a, our encrypted logo that we'll have for iCheckmates, our CID, our cyber identification. And that's where our partnerships have come in, where we are partnering with online dating sites. We are partnering with LinkedIn. We are partnering with Craigslist and pretty much any site. We also have B2B business now where we can do the brick and mortar business, and one area that I want to target and go after is also the adult care facilities, because we hear all too often what's happening with our adult care facilities, where sadly these people are abusing, they're stealing, I mean, even down to, I mean, I hate to say it, but when you have some movers come, sadly there isn't really a lot of quality that you need, and you can be an ex-con to move, but if you are somebody of wealth or has things, they know where you live, they know what you have, they know where you've moved. Really, it can be used. Anybody I say that has a cell phone, a tablet, a PC, computer can be a potential customer of ours, because we will be having also what I'm going to call it iCheckmates on the go, because we're not always in front of our computer, and we can be out, like you said, at a bar meeting somebody, or even at a convention. And
They'll
even
put a damper on your date. Here, put your thumbprint on my phone.
Well, no, they're not going to have to do that.
The romance.
No, but let's say you get, and I tell women and men, because believe me, I do have the men. It's not as much as the women.
Are women more victims than men?
Yes,
but not a whole bunch though.
No, they are women more, but this is the problem, and this is what I have had a lot of men come forward. But this is the issue. I don't think the statistics are right. I do think they're higher for men. The problem is men are not comfortable coming forward. Sure. I think they're embarrassed. I think they think, how can I get conned? So they don't share it. But I have had many men send me articles, because I do a lot of posting. I share my story. I'm very transparent. And so they said, thank you. I've never told anybody this, but I was conned by a woman. I lost everything. It devastated me. I can't believe I was so stupid. My family and friends still have no idea. So I think they're very ashamed. Yeah. So sadly, I don't think the statistics resonate as much as what they are, but yes, I mean, crazy is both, male, female, doesn't matter what race, religion, what political party, it's everyone, and that's why this issue is for everyone.
The stigma is that men are supposed to pay for things, and so if you pay this much or you pay $1 million, you're still paying anyway you look at it. And a lot of men, like you say, are going to say, well, that was a bad date, that was a bad. They might not even know they really got conned. They might think they just got unlucky or something happened,
But these the cons that I know of, the men that are contacting me, are like the proposal of marriage, like sending like a $250,000, $500,000. I know in one case $500,000 on an engagement ring. The cars, everything, all to just have the person disappear. Really sad, or this person, they thought they really fell in love, and all to find out it was
it's the emotional
catfish.
side as well. The emotional investment,
and that's
almost more than the monetary, isn't it?
What's a catfish?
They eat catfish, and that's where you have a relationship online with someone that you've never met. And you find out later, and if you're familiar with the Manti Te'o story from Notre Dame, but for 2 years he had this relationship, and it turns out it was a man, it was a friend of his, and that's the term or catfish, where you're literally having a relationship with someone you think is a completely other individual. And when I did my 2020 segment, actually the first person that was on, or segment that was on, was about a gentleman who had committed suicide. And I have a lot of very sad stories of both men and women that we do know have committed suicide, not just from the shame and the emotional loss of realizing they had been lied to and deceived, not just financially, but then emotionally.
I think the emotional deceit's the worst part.
Well, that's where the suicide. But then what makes it worse is, and this gentleman had thought he fell in love with a woman. She lived, I believe, in like Costa Rica. He had been sending her money to get her here. They had been communicating for, I think, 9 months, and he really thought he fell in love. He was very excited. I mean, he was very, very much in love, and found out that the person he had been communicating with was actually a man. And what he didn't know is some gentleman had stolen this girl's pictures and had been hitting several sites, pretending to be her, getting money from men. He wasn't the only one, but he was so devastated that he blew his brains out. And they had his son on, and they did track down the girl whose pictures it was. And I mean, it was just so sad, because they found, I think her picture had been used over 200 times on different sites, targeting, men.
Well, I mean, I'm learning all this getting into radio, right? Because I got all these social media pages, and I see my pictures on other things sometimes that I go, what's going on? Well, remember I told you about that guy that's playing our YouTube videos on his YouTube channel and making money on it?
Yeah.
And I call up YouTube and say, how do I stop that? Well, you publish it to the world. So I said, no, that's not right. He's actually putting commercials on our YouTubes on his channel.
Well, that actually would come under the law SB 1411 in California.
I'm going to look into that. But, I mean, when you're out in the public, it's hard to keep track of all this stuff.
Right. And this is why, because even the everyday common, there have been people that have stolen my pictures off of Facebook. And I've found that I had a profile on Plenty of Fish.
Oh, interesting.
There's a profile, an extra profile of me, on Match and on Facebook. Someone that took my pictures and was not to claim my name, but claimed my pictures.
The picture, yeah.
And it happens, every day.
Well, we don't have to worry about that ever.
Well, you haven't seen where I put your picture, right?
No, where'd you put it?
Oh, no, I'm not going to tell you.
Okay, I have to research that.
Thankfully, we're all ugly that they don't want our photos.
That's why we're in radio. Welcome back to Security Guy Radio. That's securityguyradio.com. With Chuck, what was my nickname, Harold, again? I can't remember.
Oh, God.
I can't
You
remember.
change it every
I'm so
every time.
tired and hot.
I'll stick with my tally-ho, actually.
And it's very solid,
Yeah.
very solid. Ms. Kelley Cahill is our guest, founder of iCheckmates.com, a very unique, I'm not going to say background, I'm going to say verification company, really.
Yeah, identity management, verification. Yeah. Site.
So in the next hour, we're going to talk a lot about your legislation, but I want to finish up this hour with some good questions you had to break about.
Yeah, I just thought it'd be good to explain how the profile on, say, Facebook, how the end user looking at Facebook knows that the profile that person gave you and that you've done the background check, shall we say, is the same one that is on Facebook. So how does that link up?
Right, because we're going to have a badge that will basically go with the individual saying they've been CID. Just like you'll see on Facebook, this is the official page of
Right, that's right.
Justin Timberlake or whomever, or Twitter. So they only know that because the data that has been given has been verified. And I don't why Facebook only does that with celebrities. I don't know, but
they would not verify securityguyradio.com. No, I'm serious. I tried to have it done, and they said it's only certain levels,
right?
And things like that. Otherwise, they do it all the time,
right? And so, well, it is also, it can be very costly,
right?
And they really don't want to be in the business of background checks. Otherwise, that's what they would do. That's not their business. And so, somebody like me comes along, and I have an idea. But basically, we're going to have our application, and it'll be a choice that people can use. But for anybody that will fill out a Facebook profile with their email, their name, and a lot of the information, which is basic, which you think people wouldn't lie about, but they do. It will have to match what has been verified in the badging system.
That's the answer I was looking for.
Because, and the sad thing with Facebook, and you've been able, I've been able to get people kicked off, even my loser Khan, because he's pretended to be a lot of different people, both men and women, to try to get on my pages, to try to friend some of my friends, to try to disparage me, to see what I'm doing, spying on me. And they've been removed. But with Facebook, all you need is a new email.
Yeah,
they don't have any idea.
Or a phone.
That's right.
New phone
They
number.
don't have any idea
right.
because Facebook, and they have billions of, there's a billion people on Facebook.
Now, here's what I'm thinking, devil's advocate. Because I've used fake personas in investigations. I come up to somebody and I say, I'm so-and-so and I'm doing X. And here's some money. Tell me what your bank account is. And they say, okay, here you go. It's all legal because I'm paying them. They don't have to give it the information if they don't want to. But why can't I just be Ted Bundy? Because I'm really Ted Bundy. I don't really care if you know who I am. I'm just going to kill you anyway.
Well, the biometrics wouldn't match.
No, I'm telling you, I'm Ted Bundy. That's my pretend I'm Ted Bundy.
Okay, you're Ted Bundy.
Here's my house. Here's my fingerprints. I've never been arrested before. I happen to be a sociopath, and you don't know it because I've gotten away with it until I got caught, right? So how do we guard against a positive profile, a real profile? how do we get a little further into why this guy is wacky? Do you look at behavior? Do you look at past relationships? Do you interview people
well, one,
that way?
we would know. Yeah. Well, one, we also have, as far as the data or paper trail that I say, is we have a way of knowing, we know what every social media site you're on. And that's where some of the investigating comes in, and people really looking at the data, on my team. What are the inconsistencies? What are the consistencies? I know that my con is on a minimum 6, 7 different sites. I know it was up to 12 at one point, and I'm sure more than that. But you'll see when you see, and again with the biometrics and being able to even pull his picture up and see what sites he's on, the information doesn't match at all. Like where he lives.
You can't keep it. Nobody can keep it matched. You're saying. I mean, if you're a legitimate guy, you're not going to have 12 sites.
Well, right now,
Can't keep it all straight.
Just 2 months ago, we found his profile on Match.com again after we had 2 new victims come forward from Plenty of Fish.
Real name.
Real name, same
okay,
thing.
All right.
He's never changed his MO. Real name, his picture. He just, again, lies about his age. He says his one address where he lives here in Orange County, and then his other address where he lives, or state, city and state, in Colorado. This has been his MO forever. And saying he's divorced. Now they've added like a separated thing. Before they didn't really have that. But again, you can check those records now to see if somebody really is divorced. But there's also, and just to really quickly answer your question, a lot of people don't know there are these sites that you can go on to out your, there's like don'tdateemgirl.com.
Oh, yes, yeah,
there's Liars and Cheaters Are Us.
Yeah.
There's there's so many now. I know that my con is on, I think, 7 of those, and with several different women commenting. So again, those things can come up and see. So you could really do a lot of verifying of things to kind of figure out, is this person really who they say they are?
A typical, from what you've seen, a typical sort of con artist in this arena, do they put more information on there than the non-con artists?
Yeah, is that a tip-off maybe?
Or is it just a little bit that they put on? I mean, how do they sort of...
No, they put what they
themselves?
think. They put what they know what works, and they put they put literally the information of the victim they're trying to garner. And I tell you, they go after the Christian.
So they sort of match it.
Well, yeah, it's like if they're reeling them in,
Yeah,
and they will go after the Christian or religious woman most of the times, because they will play the God card, they will play the guilt, they will play the religion, they will play that they're Mr. I go to church. Which is just disgusting. But that is a huge one. And more, now there's, I don't even know, but the Christian singles or Christian dating singles. Well, a gentleman, ex-Navy intelligence, was just sentenced to, I think, 25 to 45 years. He was raping several women, and my friend, luckily, was not a victim of rape, but she was soon to be one of his victims, and it was because of the information that she knew how to take screenshots of her phone, screenshots of her computer, knew enough to know that something wasn't right. Well, this guy was getting into these girls' phones. After he would rape them, the girls would then text him, and they'd had relationships or whatever before, text him why did you do this? I can't believe this. And his response is, I have no idea who you are. The next thing you know, the entire thread, their entire history of conversations had been deleted. He had a way of hacking into their home computers, and my friend that testified in court and actually gave the FBI the evidence, he had mirrored not only her phone and actually the police's phone, but got into her computer and started responding to some of the other men on the Christian dating singles, pretending to be her to get them away from
There's
him.
a lot of software out there for phones that they say is for your own personal use. Put it on your phone, and it'll send you an email of every text and phone call you make. Except you don't do that. You put it on your girlfriend's phone and get all her texts and emails.
Well, if you
Terrible
have
stuff.
the mirror set, if you had that and he had hit on his, or if you just did the mirror, if you just swiped it over his phone, you could get every single thing. And that's what these guys are doing when you're out. Is, they can put this on and you don't really know it. And everybody now has their phone out. They're taking pictures. It's no big deal. And, this is one way these guys, can do this or get their address. But, it's just so... it's rampant everywhere. And even like I said, with the Christian dating singles, people think that's safe to go because it's Christian. That's, I hate to say it's one of the worst, but I mean, as far as, sadly, that's where a lot of the con artists target, because they know the heart is
People make assumptions,
soft.
yeah.
How many people on these sites now? I mean, is there any sort of
I can
read
tell
on
you,
how many people
actually,
are actually using them now?
right now, it is the business of online dating has grown. It is now over 2.5 billion people
Billion with the B.
with a B, and
Wow.
it's growing 1 million persons a year, and
That's
growing at a
crazy, isn't it?
4.7% rate. And over 100 million people as of today are online dating. The percentage, I think it's 47% men, 53 women.
Sounds like it's all back to the bar, right?
Well, we're in the wrong
But
business again, as usual.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we can only got about 2 minutes. Tell us when all your biometrics and all that stuff is going to be up and running. Are we up and running now?
No, but I do background. I can do the background
Right.
verification. I've basically been doing what I call the one-offs, but then we'll be set up automated, I'm hoping, within 2 months or so, to where we can run, millions of records at a time. But right now, I personally do those and make sure that they're, people are verified, as well as our site is very interactive. It gives you information about, one, to hopefully prevent or protect you, before you meet somebody. It gives you good tips, but also in case if you have been a victim, I will be starting soon a nonprofit, which we can get into the next hour, but for victims of nonviolent crime, and also where there is help, and I give resources of what I've learned and people I've found to help me that have been victims, because there really is nothing to protect anyone. And just great articles, a lot of information and data, and people need to share where I can send them and referrals.
So iCheckmates.com. Do you want
Yes.
to give email to give it anybody?
Kelley, Kelley, at iCheckmates, iCheckmates, plural.com.
Excellent.
Great.
That's it.
Yeah, it's a good site. I actually looked at it.
It is a good site.
Yeah.
It is a good site.
Yeah.
Do you do the old-fashioned knock on the door and interview the neighbor stuff if people ask for that? Sometimes that tells you a lot. You go out and look where they live.
Well,
and
we
you talk to them and
actually,
stuff.
what's really interesting is in the background, we can go even to wherever you've worked, into like 40 employees deep. We can get actually a 1 to 5 mile radius with a visual of your home and surrounding neighbors to do recon
That's-
if we
well,
needed
the
to.
the old-fashioned police backgrounds.
Yeah,
yeah. Yep.
Mine took 6 months. And if you do that, you're really more likely to get the right
Yeah,
person.
especially if it's for a case, or if like a woman, if it is for either for a criminal case or if there are things with the children involved.
There's the fade music. Now, stay tuned for part 2, where Kelley's going to talk about her very important legislation, and we're going to help her get a petition signed. So, back in a minute on Security Guy Radio. That's securityguy.radio.com. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Google+.
Cheers.